Today I want to introduce you guys to watch a rom-com movie. It is called Love and Other Drugs and its score on IMDb is 6.7. This is an R-rated rom-com, so you're in for a sexy ride, and do not watch this movie in front of your parents. Let's go! We meet Jamie, who is a great salesman. He can literally sell anything to anyone. He's really smart and handsome as well, so he hooks up with any girl that he wants. He works at an electric shop and the business is booming. His success and awesomeness attracts the shop owner's wife, and they go to a locker room and you know the rest. While these two lovebirds are doing their thing, the wife accidentally butt dials her husband and things get out of hand. The furious boss fires Jamie. The night of this incident, Jamie's family are gathered for a family dinner to congratulate the success of Jamie's brother Josh in his work. Everything is going well until Josh's tongue slips and tells everyone that Jamie got fired. This makes the dinner a bit uncomfortable, but Josh tells everyone that he can easily hook up Jamie with a job as a pharmaceutical sales representative in his company. Jamie sees that he has no choice, and he accepts the job and becomes a representative for Pfizer. While he's an intern, Jamie is clearly doing great. He's a natural, so naturally he sleeps with the supervisor because, he left a huge impression on her. All Jamie can think about is money and starts to become an important asset for Pfizer. A few days later, when Jamie is sitting with his coworker Bruce in the lobby, a beautiful blonde passes by and Jamie yells, "Hey Lisa!" The girl does not pay attention and goes away. Bruce laughs at Jamie and calls him out for being wrong about the girl's name, but Jamie says, "I know her name is not Lisa, but after a few times she will correct me and we can start a conversation. For example, she says that her name is Katie or something. But even that doesn't matter because I will tell her that she looks like a girl that I loved before, and unconsciously she thinks that I have admired her before." Jamie has a rival from another company by the name of Terry. Because of his good relationships and friendships with doctors, they contact and buy from Terry and use his medicines for their patients. One day when Jamie has had enough with Terry, he starts flirting with one of the doctor's secretaries and convinces her to replace Terry's drugs with his and put Pfizer drugs instead. He does the same thing in every clinic that he goes, and at the end he throws Terry's drugs in the trash. A kind of hobo, you could say, picks up the drugs from the trash can and he wants to sell them in the black market. Jamie realizes that if he wants to sell loads of drugs and become a well-known salesman, he must talk to Dr. Knight. If Dr. Knight uses his drugs, other doctors will follow and he becomes what he wants. Jamie talks to Dr. Knight and convinces the good doctor, with a few promises, to visit patients as an intern. The first patient that comes in is Maggie, who suffers from Parkinson's disease, a horrible disease. Maggie has a zit on one of her boobs and shows it to Dr. Knight. During this time that Dr. Knight is examining Maggie's boob, Jamie is staring at her boobs like a creep, and when Maggie realizes that Jamie is a salesman, starts hitting him, and at the end she takes his photo and tells that she will sue him. Jamie feels really bad and goes back to his apartment and sees that Josh, his little brother, is there. Josh tells Jamie that his wife left him because he was constantly watching porn, and plus he got fired from his job due to his bad performance, and at the end he asks Jamie if he could crash at his place. Jamie somehow finds Maggie's number and calls her. He wants to explain that he is not a pervert and he did not want to make her uncomfortable, and he was only there for his job, but he couldn't help but to stare at her boobs because she has nice boobs. After a while, he can convince Maggie to see him and talk more. When he arrives at the coffee shop that Maggie told him to come to, he sees that Maggie works there. When they start talking, Jamie notices that Maggie's hand is shaking and asks her if this happens to her whenever she's falling for a handsome guy. Maggie says that she does not have the time and patience to explain what's going on and tells him if he wants to have sex or not. Jamie nods and says yes, so they go at the back and start the business, and Jamie loves it. They go out, and one more time before they get back to their houses, they have sex. This becomes a ritual for them, and they do it all the time in the back of the coffee shop. Everything is going well until one day Terry sees Jamie and thanks him for throwing his drugs in the trash because this act made his drugs to be wanted more than ever. Other than that, Terry told all of those secretaries about Jamie's personality and affairs, and all these girls avoid him now. There is no place for Jamie to sell his drugs anymore. In the meanwhile, as much as Maggie loves having sex with Jamie, she feels like that Jamie is falling for her and tells him that none of her relationships were successful and she only wants sex. But after a while, even the sex is not that good because Jamie cannot perform in bed if you catch the drift. Also, Maggie's disease seems to be getting worse to a point that she has problems opening a bottle. She calls Jamie and tells him that she doesn't want to see him anymore and refuses to answer his calls. After a few days, Jamie finds Maggie doing volunteer work, taking a few old people to Canada. Maggie tells her that she is getting out of the state and won't be back for a day. When she leaves, Jamie doesn't leave and waits for her in the car until she comes back. The next morning, Maggie arrives and sees Jamie waiting in the car, and this makes her change her decision and dates him again. But she tells him if they break up because of her sickness, she will hate him forever. They go to Maggie's place and they have the best sex of their lives. Jamie gets a promotion and starts selling a new drug that will help the performance in bed, Viagra. Jamie is so good at selling this drug, so he becomes a great salesman and he gets really good at sex as well. He gets so rich and famous that he becomes more known than the doctors. Even that blonde girl approaches him. He rejects the girl and introduces her to Dr. Knight. Then goes to see Maggie and tells her that he loves her, and tells her that this is the first time that he said it to any girl. Maggie, though, she tells him that this feeling is fake and out of pity. She even lies to Jamie and tells him that in the morning she had sex with a guy to make Jamie go away. Jamie gets mad and leaves, but hears a glass shatters and goes back inside and finds Maggie crying. He asks her to join him for a conference in Chicago and Maggie accepts. Jamie and Maggie participate in the conference, and this conference is about people who suffer from Parkinson's disease. There, Jamie meets a man whose wife had Parkinson, and he tells Jamie that he regrets that he didn't leave his wife soon. And if he can get back in time, he will definitely stay away because this disease will change everything about a person. After this conference, Maggie is very positive about the future because she saw how successful people with Parkinson could be. But Jamie is a bit hesitant and wants to see if there is a cure before he does something. But very soon, he realizes that there is no cure. Maggie, who sees Jamie like this, leaves his life. A few days pass, and that blonde girl, who Jamie called Lisa, invites Jamie to a nude party. She broke up with Dr. Knight. At the party, Jamie has an awesome threesome with Lisa and another girl, and he really has a good time. Jamie is getting more successful as the days go by, and after his latest promotion, he wants to move to Chicago for good, but suddenly he finds a video of himself and Maggie and sees how much he loved her and how happy they were together. He changes his mind and goes to find Maggie again. Maggie is doing that volunteer work, taking the elders to Canada. He really busts his balls so he can finally succeed to stop the bus and talk to Maggie, who refused to talk to him. He tells her that he was an asshole his whole life, but Maggie taught him not to be one. He tells her that she wanted him for himself, but other girls want him for what he has. He explains how much he needs her in his life, and Maggie needs someone to take care of her. Maggie finally cracks and gets emotional and agrees to date him again. Jamie rejects the position in Chicago and starts to study to become a doctor. His life really did change after seeing Maggie. That's it. Hope you enjoyed. Want to watch a sexy R-rated movie with a nice ending? I present Love and Other Drugs.